يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. It is a Wednesday morning, of course, and that means you're with me, Julie Alli, on Let's Talk. We will be together till 10 o'clock this morning. We're looking at various issues. Firstly, we're looking at real life, real issues, and it's all about living with a chronic disease. That is our third guest on the show this morning. We also will be looking at abuse, depression, and why men are more likely to go into drug abuse as opposed to women. But first up, we are going to be looking at e-commerce, and we have a young entrepreneur in studio with us. He is said to be South Africa's e-commerce expert. So the question I asked him off air is that are we in Africa and South Africa particularly ready for e-commerce? Let's hear what he has to say. Warwick Kearns, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Well, thank you for having me here.
Nice to have you here, and I must tell you a little story.
Sure.
My husband ordered something online.
Yes.
And I think it all falls under the ambit of e-commerce, does it not?
Yes.
And what we were expecting the item to be and what it turned out to be were two totally different things in terms of size. And we were very, very disappointed. And I kind of asked him, but what were you thinking? Why did you do that? I prefer going into a store, it has to be tangible for me. I must touch, feel, smell, etc., etc., etc. And that's the way I do my buying. So hold that thought in the back of your mind, because before you respond to that, let's get to know who Warwick Kearns is and why he is said to be South Africa's e-commerce expert. Good morning, welcome.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me once again. And yeah, certainly. So there are a lot of challenges in e-commerce in South Africa. I've certainly experienced it myself. I started my online store back in 2010. I started it.
Yes, carry on.
In the spare bedroom of my parents' house with very little money, just enough money to buy some stock. And then I got that stock in and I sold it online. And I took that money and I bought more stock. And then I bought more and more and more. And I built a business which, from doing nothing, within our third year, we hit our first month where we did R1 million online sales.
Wow.
And it grew and grew and grew. And I sold that business last year. But I went through a journey where a similar journey to what a lot of people are going through today, who are trying to start an online business, but there isn't a support structure. There isn't any formal education you can get on this, really. And everybody's very much experiencing a lonely journey where you're trying to figure it out on your own. You're making mistakes, you're figuring stuff out, and when you have a big win, you've got nobody to share it with. And I'm trying to change that. So where I'm positioned as South Africa's e-commerce expert is I'm the only one that's now changed position to say, well, I do still have some online stores, but my focus is to educate South African entrepreneurs, firstly, about the opportunity that exists within e-commerce, how it is the easiest way to start your own sideline business and grow that into a full-time business. But secondly, it's not as difficult as many people think, especially if you can get into our community, which we've now started, which is free to join. And it's now a place where people can come and share ideas, they can ask their questions, they can express their challenges, and there's thousands of us in there that are all helping one another. And it really is helping so much. So where I started alone and had to figure this all out on my own, now there is a support system and there is a place where you can go and get help and see that you're not just the only one doing this. There is a better way to do it.
Okay, so you studied at UJ and
Yes.
You then decide, what did you study, by the way?
So my degree was a BCom in entrepreneurial management at University of Johannesburg.
Makes lots of sense that you're in this space now.
Yes.
Did you ever enter the formal workplace?
During my university days and even in high school, I tried to start several businesses. And when I say try, it was definitely just trying. I started businesses selling boerewors rolls and washing cars and bartending and promotions and all kinds of things. And all of those businesses failed. A lot of them were just dreams and wishes. There was no formal business plan behind it, but I saw a lot of failure, and every business that I started and failed in, I learned a valuable lesson, which was great, but I also lost all my money. So once I finished my BCom entrepreneurial management degree, what I wanted to do was get some formal workplace education, so actually see how businesses are run. And for that reason, I actually moved to London for a few years, and I didn't have a job lined up. We just flew across there, and the job I landed up getting was in an e-commerce business. And I was very fortunate that it was a small business at the time. There was 2 founders, myself and one other staff member, and the 4 of us, within a few years, became 30 of us and became nearly 100 of us. And that business just exploded, and I was witnessing how big e-commerce can become from the stance of an employee, but I was just learning and kind of absorbing as much as I could. And that kind of set me up.
Prior to you joining that company in London, you went there for work experience, obviously.
Yes.
Did you think that was the space you wanted to be in?
Not at all. Before that, I didn't actually have many computer skills. In the interview for that job, they were asking about how well I type, and I completely lied. I said, no, I can type very well. Meanwhile, I was a one-finger typer. Right. But I learnt, and I saw the opportunity in that. So with the growth of that company, we did some phenomenal things in that e-commerce business in London. We expanded it right across Europe, and I guess I played a pivotal role because in 2009, I was given the award of being London's outstanding young business person of the year.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. And that kind of set me up nicely to have seen how big e-commerce can become, and to have got some good experience working underneath some good founders. And that gave me the confidence to move back home in 2010. And that's when I started that business that we spoke about back in the spare bedroom of my parents' house.
What did your parents say about it? I mean, they lived with you and your grand ideas from high school with all of those failed ventures. Were they behind you all the way?
I think they wanted to see me succeed.
Okay.
And I needed to move back in with them because I was broke. And they were very supportive. They didn't quite understand it.
Yeah.
And when I was sitting there on my computer, just day in, day out, they thought, I don't know what they thought. But when I walked through one day to the kitchen and said, I just made $3,500 online, they were kind of intrigued.
Let's understand, let's unpack e-commerce. Look, we all know about takealot.com and all of those businesses, and they really multinationals, are they not?
Yeah, it's big businesses.
Right. And then obviously you're talking about very, very stiff competition, but we'll get to that also in a little while. But let's understand e-commerce. And my experience where my husband bought something online and we're very disappointed with the actual product. So what exactly is commerce? And as a consumer, what do you need to understand and know about e-commerce to start buying online?
So those are some great questions. And it comes down to the responsibility that everyone who's selling online really has. Because you've got Takealot, who a lot of people who are starting out see them as the big competition. They're the big scary guys in the marketplace. But really, they're the ones that we've got to thank for all the good work that they're doing and encouraging so many people to make their first purchase online. Because as soon as somebody's bought once off online from maybe Takealot, they're far more likely to buy off my site next time because they've learned the process. They understand that putting your credit card details into a website is probably the safest way to make a purchase, no matter where you are. And they've experienced the idea of getting a delivery.
And yet that frightens me, the fact that I've got to, key in my credit card details online. I'm not sure who's getting access to those details.
So it is absolutely the safest way. Our banking regulations in South Africa are far more stringent than many countries around the world. The idea of getting a one-time PIN on your phone, South Africa was one of the first countries worldwide to enforce that with e-commerce. And all of the people selling online, me included, we put our hands up because we said, don't do it because it's going to drop our sales. And it did drop our sales because this happened back in 2015 when they enforced the one-time PIN. And our sales went down for a while, but then consumers learned that this is actually increasing the security for me to shop online.
Why did you think the sales dipped at that point in time? Because really what it was protecting the consumer.
So the reason that it dipped was because not everybody's credit card was set up to get a one-time PIN. So somebody would come to my site, they would actually find something that they wanted to buy, they would check out, they would pay, but then they don't get the one-time PIN and we lost the sale.
Okay.
But consumers were educated very quickly, and afterwards the trend went right upwards because people understood that it makes it more secure. But what anybody selling online has a responsibility to do is to give the consumers a great experience, because that great experience gets them to come back again. So whichever website your husband bought off, they did the rest of us a disservice, right? Because now you guys are hesitant to buy online again.
Yes.
And it comes back to the fundamental basics of selling online. Number one is to make sure that the customer understands what they're buying. And importantly, the images for the product have to kind of give a perspective of how big the product is. And that was what the merchant who sold to you made a mistake with. And they've done the rest of us a disservice, because now you're less likely to shop online. But if you can have a great experience with my site or with Takealot or any other site, then next time you're going to think, well, should I go to the shops or should I buy online? And the better experience we can give you time and time again means that more and more people are going to be shopping online, and that's going to raise the economy in terms of the sales online.
Let's go for our first ad break. We'll talk some more right
Terrific.
after. My guest is Warwick Kearns. He is said to be South Africa's e-commerce expert. We're going to talk some more about buying online, the pitfalls, what you as a consumer need to know, and obviously, hopefully, it could be an amazing experience, and you'd be able to then shop delightfully online without getting into your car, without navigating your way through the mad traffic of our cities, and really be a very relaxed shopper and a very, hopefully, happy shopper with all of your purchases. Welcome back. We're talking to Warwick Kearns about e-commerce. I don't really understand much about e-commerce, and I'm so pleased that he's in studio this morning to talk to us about it. And very especially, I think the older generation, but I could be wrong. I'm talking the 50 plus generation here in South Africa and all around the world. I kind of wonder, would they hook into something like e-commerce? How comfortable are they with this mode of shopping? Do they trust this mode of shopping? I certainly don't, because of my bad experience, with due respect to you, Warwick. Sure. How do you respond to that statement of mine?
Well, I think that's completely fair.
The age group as well.
Yeah, so it's completely fair, because it's something that you're not used to. People are used to driving to the mall and buying it online, buying it in a retail experience where you're dealing with somebody and you know that you can go back to that seller. You can go back to that shop if you wanted to return something. But more and more people are starting to shop online, and we're seeing that statistically in South Africa. But it's still very small. It's in its infancy.
Let me just take you back to one question there. Were you suggesting when you go into a store or a mall, if you're not happy with your purchase, you can return it? Yeah. Do e-commerce customers not have that choice of returning? And if they do return and do accept returns, does that not cut into your bottom line? So
as an online seller, we absolutely have to stick by the same rules with the Consumer Protection Act, so people can definitely return it. But the perception that a lot of buyers have, shoppers, is that because they can't go there physically, they're not sure if they can return something. So there's a big mismatch in trust, because you land on a website that's selling the product that you want, and you want their product, but do you trust that you can actually buy it from them? Is it going to arrive? If I have something wrong with it, can I go back to them? And this is where sites like Takealot, Bid or Buy, and those guys, consumers will naturally gravitate to those brands because they trust it more than a random website that they haven't had a previous experience from. And that trust is actually the thing that I encourage people who are selling online to build, to grow as much as they can. Because we've spoken about people who are shopping online and building that trust. But what I try and do also is encourage more and more people to start embracing selling online as an opportunity, as a business. Because if anybody out there is thinking about starting their own entrepreneurial venture, then e-commerce is absolutely the easiest way. It's got the lowest barrier to entry. If you have a full-time job, you can start a website in your spare time. You can list some products and you can start growing those sales with the hope and the intention that eventually those sales and that business will grow big enough that you can leave your full-time job and you can focus on this, and this brings in a revenue and an income for your family, and you can grow this into a big thriving business. And we've seen that with so many of our students who've actually taken that exact journey from starting this as a side hustle, like as a sideline business, to see if it's going to work. And you can do that with relatively less time and almost no capital, because you don't have to rent a shop, you don't have to do shop fitting, you don't have to hire staff in the beginning. You can do this all on your own, and it is far easier than most people think. And it is absolutely the easiest way to transition from being an employed person into being your own boss. Absolutely it is. And that's what I'm trying to let people see, to let South Africans see the growth in this market.
We know that it's huge overseas, and you're hoping that it's going to take off in a very big way in South Africa and Africa as well. And you come with the necessary experience, of course. But how do you decide what's right for the market, what product would sell? How do you source your products? And how much, how do you know how much to buy? Because you might be sitting with dead stock at some point in time.
Well, the answer to all of those questions is not too different from having your own shop. If you were selling in a physical retail environment, you still need to find suppliers. You need to decide which products are going to sell the best and how much money to invest into particular inventory. So that side of it is actually the same as running any business. You need some business insights, and you need to trust your intuition at some level. We do have some good tips on how to find good products and how to connect with suppliers, whether that's finding local suppliers and buying from them, or importing from Alibaba and selling from there. In fact, if you don't mind, I've got an ebook which people can go and go to my site, which is called insaka.co.za. It's a free ebook on finding winning products, identifying which products are better to sell online, how to find the suppliers, how to connect with them, and how to start managing your inventory. So that's an ebook that they can get and learn more about that. And that really is more of just running a business, whether that's in a retail environment or an e-commerce environment. The business is the business. E-commerce just allows people to get into the position where they have their own business far easier and far quicker.
Apart from the fact that it's convenience, and in this day and age where everyone's it's the instant age, it's instant gratification all around. People don't want to be wasting time riding for a couple of minutes or half an hour more to the mall, then struggle to find parking and navigate through the crowds, etc., etc., etc. It all sounds very tiresome. So it's quick, easy, clean, and relaxing to shop that way. But having said that, what about price? Are e-commerce businesses like yourself competitive enough to make it attractive for me to buy online?
So yes and no. Not every e-commerce retailer is there to discount the prices. If you're looking for a discount, looking online is far easier than walking around a mall and going from one shop to the next, to the next, and the next, and trying to remember which one had the best price. Because online you can just open up a different browser on your computer and say, okay, that site's selling it for 900, that one's selling it for 850, that one's 799 or whatever. So you can price hunt a lot quicker if that's your intention. So it's far easier to find deals online. Of course, we've got Black Friday coming up, which is just where everybody's going to be buying online. And absolutely, it is quicker. And also a lot of the websites, most of them, in fact, anyone that gets advice from me will be offering free shipping on a certain level. So generally orders over 500 Rand, you'll get free shipping. And that encourages customers to make that purchase online, to recognize the convenience. I haven't set foot in a shopping mall for 7 years.
Gosh.
Because I shop online and I don't see the need to go to a shopping mall. And more people are following suit to say, well, why go through that inconvenience? At Christmas time, are you going to fight for parking and fight for space in the mall and go between people? You can't even fit your trolley through there. Or you can sit in the convenience of your home with a cup of coffee, find the right price, shop online, and it will be delivered to you within a couple of days. I absolutely don't see why people would still be shopping in a retail environment.
We have a huge problem in South Africa with unemployment. So if we have more and more online businesses springing up, what's that going to do to that crisis that we're faced with? I mean, do companies, concerns like yours, employ other people? Are you creating job opportunities?
So there's a couple of sides to that, because firstly, people who are currently unemployed can very much find themselves in a position where they can be their own boss and generate an income by having an online store. So that takes them out of the unemployment pool. And then we've got the other side of it, where those people or other people selling online start to build businesses. With my last business, we had 35 staff, and that was people working online. Well, working remotely, working from our offices. And that was a company that started from me in a spare bedroom of my parents' house. And it can
But you did
absolutely grow.
eventually have to set up your own office.
In that business I did. In my current businesses, all of my staff work remotely. So everybody works from their home right around the country, and we work online. So we use online networking software. And everybody works from the comfort of their home, and that's a very nice way to be working, I must admit.
Okay, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. This is the way the future looks, and possibly even bigger and more confusing for people like myself. But having said that, if I go and do online shopping, how do I trust that the site I'm visiting and purchasing from is genuine and I'm going to actually receive my goods? Are there any ways to double check, to suss them out?
Yes, so reviews is going to be the absolute best way to see the trust. If the site is very new and has no reviews, I always encourage my students to try and get reviews, because that is what gets people to trust a site. If you can look on Hello Peter and there's a whole bunch of negative reviews, you know not to go to that site. If there's a whole bunch of love and support for that site, then wonderful. And same with Google reviews. When you Google a site, you'll always see some reviews coming up. If there's all positivity, then you know that you can trust them. Websites these days live and die by their reviews, because if you give bad customer service, you'll get negative reviews and people won't shop with you again. So other consumers giving their opinion on that site is the best way to know if you can trust them or not.
Challenges both ways. For you as an e-commerce business, for me as a consumer, what would they be?
Deliveries. In South Africa, our postal service is not something that us online sellers can trust. So that means that we have to go to couriers. So that's okay, because
And that's
they are more
more
reliable.
costly, obviously.
It's more costly. So the challenge for us is that we need to either charge the consumer for that delivery, which makes your product more expensive, or we need to absorb that cost and give you free delivery, but then our margin gets squished. So that's actually one of the biggest challenges. The other big challenge is consumer trust, which I'm glad we're having this conversation, because hopefully the viewers out there today will be more likely to go on their computer and say, well, let's give it a go. I can trust that my credit card is the best way to shop, whether that's in a retail environment. Shopping online is the best way, because if your product doesn't arrive, or if anything bad happens, the credit card company will refund you for an online purchase. So that's the best way to shop. That's the safest way to shop. And then you can trust that the couriers will deliver. You'll get tracking emails, you'll get tracking information. And if they don't deliver, if it just doesn't happen, then you do have Hello Peter or a similar site to go and air your complaints. And if you do that, the seller that gave you bad service will come begging to get that review taken down, and they'll pick up your product and they'll refund you and do everything that they can.
We've come to the end of the interview. We could have sat here all day talking, but in closing then, let's just ask the question, is it safe to buy from online from overseas companies? And how do people then sign up to your program to become entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs themselves?
Well, thank you. So shopping online, overseas and locally is the same process. You get the same protection with your credit card company. The delivery might take a bit longer, but again, just check the reviews. So that for me is no problem there. Secondly, and thank you for bringing up, yes, so insaka.co.za is our website, and people can come and join us. Our program is only open twice a year, so none of it's open right now, but there is a whole bunch of free training, and I've got some free mini courses that can get people into it, show them how to get started. And that will certainly help them to kind of just learn more about it, educate themselves about the opportunity with e-commerce, and they can go and use all that free programs. And then, of course, we have a free community on Facebook, which I spoke about earlier. It's the only support community for e-commerce in South Africa. That's free to join. So if you go on Facebook and you look for Insaka e-commerce community, you can apply to join there, and you can come and join us there. And I'll see you there later today.
Your courses, you run them twice a year. How long do they run for, and what are the costs?
So the course, yes, it opens twice a year, and it runs for as long as you need it to run, because the training is all video based, and people can work through those videos as fast or as slow as they want. So we've had some students who generally on average they take about 5 weeks to get their online store up and running, but some of our students have shot the lights out and done it in just 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the cost is 9,000 Rand for that.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for being with us. And no doubt lots of people are going to sign up, and we're going to see a whole host of young people and even older people starting up their own e-commerce businesses.
I hope so. Thanks.
There you have it. If ever you wanted to know what e-commerce and online shopping is all about, we got the rundown from this charming young man, Warwick Kearns, who is South Africa's e-commerce expert. Please do visit his website or the Facebook page and get a better and a deeper understanding of what this is all about. Don't go away. Later on in the program, we're going to talk to an author about women and mental health, and we're also going to be looking at issues around anxiety, depression, and of course, living with a chronic disease. Welcome back. We have our next guest in studio. She is Puleng Mogosi. She's a motivational speaker and an aspiring author. So she's busy with a book right now, but later on in the program, we'll talk about her book. But later on in the program, we're going to be talking about mental health issues. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we're going to touch a little bit on this issue. Morning, welcome to the program.
Okay, thank you so much.
Lovely to have you here, and you are busy writing a book.
Yes, that's correct.
Have you always wanted to write a book?
Growing up, I've always loved being creative. So writing a book has always been one of my dreams. So the problem was that I've been battling on finding topics on what to write about, because people these days write about a lot of things. So my book, it's more like a workbook. It's not like those boring novels where you just read on and on, but it's a workbook that gives you activities on what to do every single day when you are reading the book.
Why have you decided to go that route, and who is your target audience? You're talking about a workbook, so are you targeting teenagers, or are you targeting right across the board, adults, teenagers as well?
Okay, regarding my past, I have suffered a lot of domestic violence in the past. So the reason why I want to write this book is that I want to give people comfort that I didn't really receive, that I wish that I had received in order for me to heal quicker and better. So my target market is mostly women and all ages, especially from a teenage age, because that's when the domestic violence happened, especially from teenage ages and then going into marriage, going into menopause, and yeah, my target market is women.
How you talk about, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and you're talking about being a victim of domestic violence.
Yes.
And yet here you've risen above all, against all the odds. You're talking to me, you're very comfortable talking about the book that you're busy writing. You're also going to touch on other mental health issues.
Yes.
How did you heal yourself, or how are you healing yourself from the domestic violence? You did say domestic violence.
Yes, domestic violence, that's correct. Okay, I can say it has been quite a journey, because growing up, I was told that I need to go see counselors, psychologists, and for me, the first time I went to a counselor, it did not help me at all, because I was not yet ready to talk about it.
Why were you told, by whom were you told that you need to go to counselors? Was it people trying to break you down, to make you feel worthless? Is that why they kept saying to you, you need to go to a counselor?
Not at all. It was mostly people close to me who care about me. Because I couldn't speak to them, they said, okay, maybe get someone professional, trained in that field, that can speak to you about your issue. But then going there, the questions that I was asked, because I was still young, in a way I felt judged, and I left the program in the middle. I didn't even finish it.
You talk about domestic violence. Was it
Yes.
domestic violence through a partner or through other elders in your family?
It was not really elders in the family. It was more like somebody that I knew. Yeah, it was someone that I knew, someone in the community.
That was beating up on you, or?
No. Domestic violence, it encloses sexual abuse, all this. So mine was sexual abuse.
And you just couldn't speak out about it?
It happened once. That's the thing.
But it scars you for life.
Exactly.
And thank you for being so honest and open on the show with us about it,
you.
because it takes a very brave person to be able to very publicly say that I was sexually abused.
Yes.
Your perpetrator, have you ever faced him again? Have you ever confronted him about these issues? After all the years of counseling, you're a very strong young woman sitting here in studio with me. Have you gone back, and do you think that it would serve you by confronting him?
I don't really think it would serve me by confronting him, because the biggest gift that I did for myself was forgiving him. From the word go, I said, you know what, let me just forgive him. Because if I can go and confront him, I will say, no, it was not your fault. It was not my fault, it was your fault. So I said, you know what, let me set myself free and also set him free by forgiving him. And I don't think me ever confronting him would make things any better. Yes.
You've moved on with your life.
I've moved on, I'm fine.
What have you learned from that horrible experience?
I've learned that there are wounds that we face as women. Some are internal, some are external. And even if you can go to the hospital, we find that people with the internal bleeding cases are the most fatal cases, as opposed to people who are bleeding externally. So I've learned that it's better that your wounds are bleeding externally instead of them bleeding internally, where no one can see, but the damage gets bigger and bigger. So I've learned that next time, should I face something like that, or a friend or a colleague or anyone for that matter, I will tell them, you know what, the best way is to speak about it until you can't speak about it no more.
Because you're getting it all out.
Because the blood is coming out and the wound is getting better. Yes.
It's all that anger, the toxins,
Yes,
the
yes.
anxiety, the angst, you're just
The
getting
bitterness,
it out. And that is
yes.
why we are told time and time again that if you're anxious or stressed about something, go to a counselor, talk about
Yes.
it, get it out of your system, because
That's
once
so
it's out of
true.
your system, you're free,
Exactly.
you're whole.
Exactly.
Let's go for an ad break. We'll be back in a minute or two. I'm talking to an amazing young lady, Puleng Mogosi, very honest, very open about the pain and the hurt in her life. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and she's been brave and bold enough to come onto the show to talk about it. She's going to document this, her journey, her healing journey after having been sexually assaulted, by way of a book, but it will be in the format of obviously stories and pictures, and showing people who've been abused mentally, emotionally, sexually, physically, that you can overcome and you will overcome. Don't go away. We'll be talking more to this amazing young woman. Puleng Mogosi is my guest. She's here to talk about her journey in healing from sexual assault. And in the process, she has strengthened to such a huge degree that she is now busy writing a book. She wants to tell her story, and she wants other victims of domestic and sexual abuse to be able to pick up her book, to read the story, and start healing themselves as well. When you were sexually abused, how old were you at the time?
I was 13 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
When you took your story to the elders in the community, in the family, what did they say to you? You know, I often hear women of sexual abuse or girls, you are told that it was your fault because you dressed in a certain way, because you encouraged it, because you're naughty, because you're always out in the streets, etc., etc., etc. What were the responses that you got?
Yo, mine were a lot, but the most that stood out is that I asked for it, you know, and it was mostly women who were saying those things as opposed to men, because men were rather supportive, and we would expect women to be the ones, you know, being supportive in that sort of a matter, you know, women to women type of a thing. But in my case, it was the women who were, you know, painting a bad name about me and all those things.
After the assault, did you go and see a medical practitioner?
Okay, I went via the SAPS, and I did go to see a medical practitioner because they wanted to take tests and all those things. Yes.
You didn't lay a claim. You didn't lay a charge against your perpetrator.
I did lay a charge, and then after some time I dropped it because I was still young, and I said to my mom, you know what, Mom, I don't want to go through the court cases and whatnot. Already people are talking. So let me just forgive this guy.
And if you had gone to court, the right thing to do is to go to court,
Yes.
because perpetrators need to be punished.
Yes.
But for the victim like yourself, sadly, the court case means you're being raped all over again, because you've got to relive that horrible experience.
That's so true. So I was still young, and I said to my mom, I don't want to see him ever again. I don't want to speak about it, and I don't want him to be saying to me that I'm lying, whereas I know that I'm telling the truth.
Has he ever come back into your life to harass you?
Not at all. Not at all. He always kept his distance. Even when we meet, it's just that thing that, oh, it's just someone that I know, just like that.
When did you decide you're all grown up, you're an independent woman in your
Yeah.
own? Just writing the book tells me how committed you are, what a success you are. You are determined to make your life a success.
Yes.
You're not going to let that hold you back. You've closed the door on that. You're moving on. But by way of writing this book and talking to us on the show today, you are reaching out to other women in the same situation, and you're telling them there is hope, and you're telling them that they can heal from this.
Yes, that's true. Because with me, it took me a while. Because after you become sexual abused, there are two things. It's either you hate men or you always want to see yourself around men because you think that you deserve it. So for me, it was a bit of both. You know, I used to hate men. I wanted to be this, you know, all about activists against men and whatnot. But at the same time, I wanted to see myself around men because I thought that maybe I deserved what happened to me, you know. And I also
What you
struggled
mean
in
is that you wanted to be in a
relationships.
loving relationship.
Yes, because there was this void that I thought only a male figure could fill in my life.
Are you in a good relationship at the moment?
Yes, at the moment I'm in a good relationship and I'm engaged to be married.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So your journey continued. You went on, you studied, you entered the workforce, but determined still to write the book.
Yes.
And you've also had to do a lot of research along the way.
Yes, I did.
And through your research, you have found that women, through all of their life experiences, are more prone to become depressed and suffer from anxiety. And men, when things go wrong in their lives, they probably are depressed and suffer from anxiety, but then they turn to either alcohol or to drug abuse.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Okay, a couple of years ago, I was volunteering at a victim center. It's in one of the SAPSs. It's where they take domestic violence victims so that we can speak to them and find out what has been happening. So a lot of our raids were on women each day. And I was saying to myself that, why is it that women get more depressed, but you never see a man depressed? It's like 1 out of 10 men as opposed to 1 out of 4 women that are diagnosed with anxiety, like you're bipolar, you know, or having, you know, problem with eating disorders and whatnot. So I've realized that women, we may be strong to speak about our problems, but we are not that strong-willed to handle the problems that we face every day, as opposed to men. So men, even though they may not speak about it, but they are more strong-willed to handle them better. And I'm not saying that substance abuse is much more better, but you never see a man breaking down. It doesn't matter what they go through, but you never see them breaking down.
And that's probably part of their failing.
Yes.
Because big men should cry.
They should cry, yeah.
Men are depressed. Men do suffer from anxiety. They just deal with it very differently. I think men feel that they shouldn't say that they're depressed.
Yeah,
And
true.
I think with a lot of men, their depression manifests in anger, in rage. And that's why we have so much of road rage
Yes.
on our streets these days.
That's correct, because even those domestic violence cases, if you can look at the past of the man, the perpetrator, you'd find out that they also have issues of their own, unfortunately. And it's so unfortunate that the perpetrator has to be punished, but you'd find out they have a lot of issues that led to them ended up like behaving that way because of they are also broken on the inside. So the only way they can release it is by letting out the hurt on another person. Yes.
You're very kind to look at the problem that way, very especially because you were hurt yourself. But it's very big of you that you can actually view the situation that way. When did you come to that realization? Was it through all of the counseling that you've been through?
Honestly, it's with, in terms of finding myself, especially spiritually, Because when all that happened, I believed in nothing. I knew there was God, but for me it was like, there's God, we have to go to church then. But having a close relationship, getting to know Jesus Christ, I then realized that all of us have shortfalls. No one is perfect. And then through that journey of forgiveness as well as finding myself even more, as well as being free, finding the freedom and finding my identity and purpose, I've realized that a lot of people are hurting, but there's no one to listen to that story. Everyone is busy with life. If I come and say I have a problem, like for example, I'm a man and you are my boss. I come to you and say, yo, ma'am, I'm struggling from 1 to 3, I'm beating my wife. Chances of you taking the wife's side are much more higher than you sympathizing with the man. So I believe that men are scared to come out and tell the truth. That's why I'm saying that we need to look at the problem from a perspective of saying that all of us have a soul. My soul is not female or male, but it's a soul. Everyone has a will, mind, and emotions. So if we look at each other the same way, but accept that the way we react to matters are different, I think we'll be able to fight the issues of abuse much more better and quicker, as opposed to always finding somebody to blame.
Why do you believe that the men in South Africa are so abusive? I've talked a lot about this on the show repeatedly with various guests. What happened to you when you were sexually violated, that was a man being abusive towards a woman.
Yes.
That was an issue of a man being in control, a man exercising his power. And it's all about power. Why do you believe that we have this huge problem in South Africa? I'm not saying it doesn't happen elsewhere in the world, but it's very big in South Africa.
I think it has to go with background of like the way that we have been brought up. Because most cases result from what we've seen as growing up from young ages. Maybe a man has seen the father beating up the mother. Maybe they grew up in a very abusive township. So the only way that they know is what they've seen growing up. And they think that that's the only way to resolve matters. So it's very big in South Africa because we find a lot of South Africans now suffering from mental health, but they did not get a helping hand. So now, because of there's no one who's vouching for mental health and who was vouching for it then, we are facing the results right now.
And I think very especially the men in our community kind of feel it's not man enough. If you go for counseling or therapy, people are going to think you're a sissy.
Obviously, yeah.
And it's such a wrong perception because they don't realize how much of the hurt they can get rid of and how they can take back control of their own lives. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I do hope and pray that the men out there who are in dark places take heed of what we're saying this morning, that it doesn't make you a sissy if you reach out to a therapist or a counselor. It's going to give you back your life. It's going to give you back control. It's going to make you understand what your issues are, where you're weak, where you're strong, how you can take back all of that power without hurting vulnerable women and children. But back to you and the book.
Yes, ma'am.
Very close to your heart. When do you believe the book's going to be completed? And just give us a little more information on the book. How much of research has gone into it?
Okay, I'm still busy with it, but research has been from a spiritual point of view and the experiences that I've faced and what other people have shared with me. And the book will be out by early next year, because I believe that I want it to be accessible for everyone. I want it to be well distributed. As I've said, that it's a workbook. So I want every woman to be able to get their hands on the book.
Is it going to be a hardcover? And when you talk about a workbook, is it going to be in a magazine format? So give us those details and give us more details on when you say it's a workbook, what exactly are we going to find in the book?
Okay, it's going to be a hardcover, like your normal A4, A5 books, but you're going to find it mostly on the internet, because by a workbook, I mean that there'll be activities that you fill in each and every day, so that I can be able to get a response from so many women and find out if the book is working for them or if it's really not Yes.
And if you find someone that's really very troubled, would you be able to reach out and refer them on?
Definitely, I would do so. That's the whole
Is that
point.
part of the the whole book going out onto the internet?
Because I want to get people to speak out. I may not have all the answers, but I know someone out there can be able to help them. Yes.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. We're wrapping up now. Your final words in this month of mental health awareness and the issue around abuse against women and children. What do you want to leave our listeners, our viewers with?
Okay, what I want to say to our viewers is that we need to come to a place of wholeness, a place of letting go, a place of being free, a place of accepting that whatever that has happened, it's not your fault. It's a journey that you need to go through. It's a journey of purpose, and it's a journey that will make you one day to be able to help others out there. So I want to say to the whole of South Africa, instead of us pointing fingers at abusive men, as a nation, we need to pray. We need to pray that this man may also get the strength, like we also do as women, to come out and speak about it. All walks of life, all walks of Christianity, every religion has to pray for South Africans to say that, you know what, enough is enough with this mental health, enough is enough with this abuse, and if we can stand together as one, we can definitely win against this.
Thank you indeed. Most inspiring.
Yes.
Can't wait for the book to come out.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was Puleng talking about the book, about her abuse, how she rose up against all odds, and she does say it's possible for anybody that has been in an abusive relationship, who's been sexually violated, that they can heal and they can move on with their lives. The key there, she says, is all about freeing yourself by forgiving. Next on the show is a pastor. Her name is Fikile Khumalo. And all I can say is that I am speechless, because as we were getting her ready to come onto set, we had a brief little chat, and I was absolutely blown away by how honest and open she is about her status. She wants to talk about chronic disease, and she wants to talk gender-based violence. And I sometimes wonder about people who, whatever the issues are in their lives, whether it's a fact of abuse, whether it's a troubled relationship, whether it's financial issues, we always kind of smooth things over and make your life seem so perfect, that you're the perfect family, or you have the perfect marriage, or you have the perfect home. And we just try to personify this perfection around us. But guess what? Each and every one of us are walking around with a problem. Each and every one of us have got skeletons in our cupboards. Each and every one of us has something to deal with on a daily basis. And yet we are so judgmental. We are so judgmental about other people and other issues. And all I say is forgive, forget, and move on. And also don't try and disrupt other people's lives. If you're wanting to take action, or, undergo something, or get into a relationship, think it through very carefully before you disrupt the lives around you. If you're going to get into anything, do it ethically, do it morally, and do it the right way. Pastor, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. All the better for being in your company. How do you respond to my opening statement?
Well, for me, it's, first of all, I just want to greet all the viewers at home.
Thank you.
I'm Shelley Fikile Khumalo. I grew up in Katlehong, and a lot has happened.
Before we get to your story, when I spoke about everything happening in people's lives, I sit here and I judge you. I think that everything's perfect in my life, whereas it's not. Or you sit there and you judge somebody else, and you can gossip about that person, knowing full well that you too have skeletons in your cupboard. How is it that we forgive, forget, and empower and move forward?
You know, judgmental, it's a serious problem in our country. Most of people are dying because of judgmental. You know, you are judged, you are being judged every day. And while people are shifting their own skeleton, you know, I've been judged in so many ways. I've been labeled in so many names. And I believe in the word of God when the Bible says to me, I'm more than a conqueror through everything that I've been through, you know. So for me, the judgmental, I work on it, I build on it to make myself a better person.
You're here to talk to us about living with a chronic disease. You are living with a chronic disease. For how long have you had the disease? What is the disease?
Okay. It's not a disease, it's a virus, HIV virus. I was diagnosed in 1995.
As being HIV positive.
HIV positive, yes.
When you were diagnosed, how did you react to that information?
Obviously, by then, because remember, it was just associated with death. So definitely I was having this thought that I'm going to die. But somehow I had that thing that, you know what, no matter what, I don't want to die in a way, in a form of a way that I don't open the eyes of other people, because I didn't even invite the virus to be inside me.
And the moment people realized, or when you shared the information with your loved ones, there are two things. It's associated with death, you're going to die soon, or associated with a very free sexual, a promiscuous sexual life style. Either that, or the third scenario being that it was passed on to you by your partner who might have had a very promiscuous lifestyle. So those are the realities, and it's kind of almost shameful. People are scared to make their status public. Why are you so brave about talking about your status?
Okay, the reason I'm brave, I want to make a difference in other people's life. You know, for me to keep quiet, knowing that I've been living with this virus for more than 20 years now.
Wow.
So I don't want to keep silent and say, no, just die there in your own corner. You know, the Bible in the book of 2 Kings 7, verse 3, where it talks about the men with leprosy. So that's how
By the way, in the Quran too, we talk about diseases, dreaded diseases.
Yes.
But Allah tells us in the Holy Quran as well that with every disease, I give you a cure as well.
Yes.
So I guess you have a similar thing in the Bible. But that being said, 20 years living as an HIV positive person, and here you are in the chair, an absolute picture of perfect health. How do you live with a chronic disease and have it so well managed and controlled?
Number one, I love myself more than anything.
Wow.
I love myself and I appreciate everything about me. You know, when I look myself in the mirror every morning, I just look at this beautiful, wonderful creature, you know. So I'm so proud with everything, you know. Whatever that I've been through, for me, it was a step up to another level. The HIV, yes, it's a chronic in my body, but that doesn't identify who I am, you know.
When you talk HIV positive, what comes to mind is somebody probably presenting with tuberculosis or somebody that is very, very thin. You know, you can see that this person is not okay, and yet you are really looking very, very good. How has your lifestyle changed? What did you do in the past 20 years, and what are you still doing that you look the picture of perfect health? You look beautiful, you look amazing, you have amazing energy. And of course, it's not only about HIV/AIDS. I should imagine it's for any dreaded disease or any disease that you're suffering from, mental, physical or otherwise, if people start using your approach, they're halfway to the healing, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, you just have to take care of yourself. You take good care of yourself, you eat well, you exercise, you rest enough, and just relax and be yourself.
In the 20 years that since you've been diagnosed, was there ever a period where you became very ill and you probably thought, maybe, just maybe, this is the end for me?
I'll remember of 2 incidences. The first one, it's the time when I developed the shingles. That's when I've started the medication. That was 2013, August. I was so sick in a way, my face was swollen. My eyes were closed, like I couldn't see anything. And probably it took plus minus 3 weeks for me to recover from that. And then another sickness, but which is not even related to HIV. This is 2019? 2017, I was diagnosed with a spine problem. It's
The discs probably
the disc
are
probably,
wearing.
yes. Disc number 4 and 3, the cartilage was having a problem. So I was supposed to go for a serious operation, but I've decided that I'm not gonna do it.
Let's go for an ad break. We'll talk some more right after. Pastor Khumalo is here talking about her status, living with a dreaded disease or a chronic disease for that matter. And later on, we'll talk about gender-based violence. Welcome back. We're talking to Pastor Khumalo. She lives with a chronic disease and it is Mental Health Awareness Month. I'm wondering how people with chronic diseases, physical ailments, etc., how does it impact on their mental health and well-being? How does that impact on you?
Mentally, to be honest, at times it's challenging. It's very challenging in a form of that, people will be like labeling you in so many ways. And at times you will feel that they are rejecting you somehow. And that is depressing. So for me, I'm like, in most cases, I make sure that I associate with the people who understand my condition, number one, who give me the support, who are always there for me when I need them.
Have you ever had a situation in your life where you were secretive about your status?
Not at all.
Why are you so open about it?
For me, I think it was easier from day one because I never kept quiet about it and I really needed help. And through this virus, I've managed to achieve a lot.
Wow. What
Yes.
are your achievements? Talk to us about
By
them.
then, when I find out about my status, I didn't even have a matric. I didn't know anything about counseling. I didn't know anything about HIV. But since that day, when I was diagnosed it was April 1995, and I've told myself that, you know what, there's no way that I will keep quiet about this. As much as I'm going to die, but I won't die silent about it. So I need to equip myself and get more information regarding that. And I've started going back to school because I didn't have a matric. I've started I've done so many things. I've attended so many different courses. And as we speak right now, I'm an assistant director doing employee health and wellness. And
Wow.
I've achieved a lot.
Good
Because
on you.
out of this, really, I wanted to see myself,
And this is the beauty. This is the beauty. When we find ourselves in a dark hole, we shouldn't curl up and die. We should stand up, dust ourselves off, and forge ahead.
Exactly.
Look back in retrospect, see what was the learning that you've taken from there and move on. Having said that, obviously you are on ARVs, you will be for the rest of your life. What are the side effects of the ARVs and how do you cope with those side effects?
Okay, the minute I take my ARVs at night, I really have to sleep. Because once I don't obey to that rest, definitely I suffer the consequences. And even in the morning, for me to wake up, it's really a challenge. So at times, really, to be on a chronic medication, it's not an easy thing as people think. And at times, you'll find yourself sleeping even during the day. And there are times where you'll just feel like, you are just sick. I'm also having this sinuses, and ever since I've started the ARVs. So yeah, I'm having a lot of
side effects.
But
you are trying to manage it.
Yes, I am managing it very well.
Do you know where and how you contracted HIV?
Yes, through my ex-husband.
Okay.
Yes, I found him HIV positive, and he hid. He didn't tell me about it up until I found out myself.
How did you find out? Were there signs and symptoms? Did you become sick? Did you take yourself to the doctor? Or did you just have this nagging suspicion that because he was HIV positive, that he's passed it on to you?
Remember back then, when you were buying a house, you were forced to go for blood tests in order for you to get the life
bond
cover. Yes. So we did that, and then only to find that his blood came positive. Mine was negative, but at the lab they were not honest enough, because at the end of the day the bond was approved, but I don't know what happened after. And only to find that after a year I found a little piece of paper in his pocket and written the name of the person who was counseling him regarding his status. And when I asked him about it, and then that's the only time he was open about it.
You then decided, without having any physical signs or symptoms, to take yourself off to the doctor.
Yes.
And get yourself checked out.
Yes.
But apart from him having passed on the virus to you, you were in a very abusive relationship as well. So you want
very bad.
You want to talk a little bit about gender-based violence. When you say it was bad, were you being beaten up physically all the time?
Physically, I was beaten. He would take a broom, beat me with the broom. He will take whatever that he sees in the house, he will use that as the weapon. So it was really, really bad. And I mean, not only physically, mentally, he will talk all these ugly things, to say I'm the most ugliest woman he has ever seen. He will just say all these funny things. And mentally as well.
How long were you in the relationship?
I've stayed in that relationship for 12 years.
Okay.
Yes.
What do you believe was going on in his life, in his mind, in his body, that he was so angry that for the slightest excuse he used to start beating up on you physically, mentally, and emotionally? What do you think was because you've done some counseling as well, you've taken up some counseling courses. What do you think was going on in his mind that he had to react in such an ugly way?
Okay, number one, he was very angry.
Why?
With himself, number one. And secondly, he had a pride. He didn't even want to take any advice from anyone. He was the only person that he was right in his own corner. But at the end of the day, it was just useless.
We've come to the end of the show. What do you want to leave us with this morning? Something of importance as far as chronic diseases are concerned, HIV and abusive relationships.
Okay, number one, I'll say to the people who are living with any kind of chronic disease, it's not the end of the world. Accept yourself the way you are and
Love
move
yourself.
on. And love yourself, definitely, and move on with your life. Because for you to feel pity for yourself, I mean, it won't help. It won't make any difference. So at the end of the day, you'll just being sick and forever being sick. But once you take initiative and say, I'm going to conquer this, definitely you will conquer it. And in terms of gender-based violence, for those who are doing it, you know, it's time that you go back and see what is it that you are doing and change. Because at the end of the day, some of them are doing it just because they are angry with themselves. Some of them are doing it just because they are not even aware that they are doing it, you know. So it's time to go back to the drawing board and see where we are doing things wrong and rectify them.
And if you are in an abusive relationship, then try and let your partner see that the relationship is very unhealthy and
Yes.
get help as soon as you possibly
soon as
can.
possible.
They probably would retaliate because men don't like to hear that they are not whole. But do everything you possibly can to get them to get the help they really and truly need so that they can become whole again. Pastor
Definitely.
Khumalo, thank you indeed for being so honest, disclosing your status here on air, and giving hope to countless of other women and men who are HIV positive and who are in abusive relationships. God bless.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it, two very brave women that came into the studio today to talk about their specific issues in their lives. HIV status, gender-based violence. The previous guest said that she was sexually abused at the tender age of 13. So these are the stories we need to hear, we need to tell, so we empower the people around us and hope and pray that no one else becomes a victim and a statistic. And that's it for the show today. Thank you indeed for being with me till Saturday morning. As always, please take care on the roads. A big thank you also to the production team. And till the next time, as always, it is Khudafez from me, Julie Alli.